Assalamu alaikum students. I hope you remember in the last module we discussed how we can configure two routers, how we can set the IP addresses of those routers and how we can ping them with each other. Now in this module number 4 it is routing configuration, in which we will do configuring static routes and default routes. So in this module our learning objectives are this: configuration of static route using an interface and an IP address as the next hop, verification of static route operation, implementation of interconnection between a local and external network using a default route, and configuration of a backup static route on a router. This one step is done when our interface becomes failed, which is our main interface, which we will do in second point. If the static route fails, then we have a backup static route on which the data can be sent. Okay, now if we come on to the topology, here is the topology of our network which we will build in this module. There are three routers, R1, R2 and R3, and you can see they are connected by gigabit Ethernet cables. This gigabit Ethernet cable is G000, this one is G001, and this one is G002. And the networks configured on these cables you can see here: 10.0.13.0, on this cable 10.0.12.0, and on this interface 10.0.23.0. And there are three loopbacks also with each router. This loopback is 10.0.11, this one is 10.0.33, and this one is 10.0.22. So this is our topology. We will build this topology in Hcia-Ensp software and then configure our static routes to verify the connectivity between the three routers. Now if we come on to the scenario of this module, the scenario is given here. Assume that you are a network administrator of a company that contains a single administrative domain, and within the administrative domain multiple networks have been defined. As we can see here, there are three networks: this network, and this network. So there are multiple networks, and for which currently no method of routing exists. That means there is no method of connecting these three networks with each other. So that's why we are using the static routes commands here. Since the network scale is small with only a few networks, static routes and default routes are to be used to implement network in communication. The network addressing is to be applied as shown in figure. As we saw earlier, this is the figure. We have to apply these network configurations to implement the topology. So this is our scenario. Now we will go back to the Hcia-Ensp window to see how we can implement this scenario. We will build the topology between the routers, configure their IP addresses first, and then we will interface them for the static routes to build their connection with each other and connect all these three networks with each other. So students, we have shifted back to the Hcia-Ensp window. You can see here I have already built a topology here between these three routers: router 1, router 2 and router 3, and they are connected with each other by gigabit Ethernet cables. These two routers are connected with each other by G000 gigabit Ethernet cable. These two are connected with G001, and these two are connected by G002. So this is our topology. Now first step is to configure IP addresses on these routers. So first I will double click on this router, and here I will start the IP configuration. For that I have to go to the system view. So I will write the system view command here. You can see here we have shifted back to the system view. Now in system view we have to first name this router. So I said sysname R1. So its name is changed to name R1. So now the next step is to interface this G000 Ethernet cable and give this an IP address. For that I will have to type interface gigabit Ethernet 0/0/0. So here we can set the IP address now, IP address, and I will give this IP address of 10.0.12.1 and subnet mask length is 24. So our IP address is set here. Now we can quit this section. Now another thing I want to show here, that this router was connected with a second router by G000, and this router is connected with this router by G001. So now we will configure an IP address on this G001. So again we type the command interface gigabit ethernet 0001 here. Okay, there's some kind of problem here, I'll have to sort it out. Interface gigabit ethernet 0/0/1. So now we'll set another IP address for this interface, and IP address for this interface will be 10.0.13.1. So you can see here that an error occurs here because we have not typed the subnet mask length. So we'll have to write this command again, IP address 10.0.13.1 and subnet mask length 24. Now the IP address is configured here. Now we'll quit this section, and again the third thing we have to do is we have to interface the loopback. For loopback interface, loopback command is used. Loopback is 0, so I will type 0 here. Interface loopback 0, and I will assign an IP address for this loopback, which will be 10.0.1.1. So this is our IP address for the loopback, and now I will quit this. Again I will type quit to go back to the user view, and here I want to display the interfaces which we have configured just now. So I will type the command display IP interface brief to see all the IP addresses we have configured on these interfaces. So you can see here on gigabit ethernet 000 IP address is 10.0.12.1, and IP address on 001 is 10.0.13.1, and IP address on loopback 0 is 10.0.11. So we have done all these things here. Now the next thing we have to do is go back to the second router to configure on IP addresses on the interfaces of that second router. So I will come back on this router, which is our second router. Again all the commands are same, you just have to configure the IP addresses. We will get back to the system view. Here I can first change its name and write name as R2. So his name is R2 here. So next thing I want to do is interface the first cable. So this router is connected with this router 1 by G001. So first I will interface gigabit ethernet 0/0/1. So then I will define an IP address here. For this interface I set IP address as 10.0.13.2 and subnet mask length 24. So we have set an IP address here. Then we will quit. Now again this router was connected to the third router by G002. So again I will interface now with the other cable, which is gigabit ethernet 0/0/2. So again I will set an IP address. For this interface I will set the IP address as 10.0.23.2 and subnet mask length 24. So we have set another IP address here, and now I will quit again. For now I have to interface the loopback. For that the command is interface loopback 0, and I will set an IP address for loopback. Here I want to set the IP address as 10.0.22. So this is our IP address for the loopback. I will enter again, then I will quit this interface. I will quit again to go back to the user view. Here I will type display interface, sorry, display IP interface brief. So we can check the IP addresses we have assigned here. For gigabit Ethernet 001, the IP address is 10.0.13.2, and the gigabit Ethernet 002, the IP address is 10.0.23.2, and the loopback is 10.0.22. So we have configured this router also with this interfaces connected to the other two routers. So we are done with these two routers. Now we'll move to the third router. Again we have to repeat the same commands: system view, and now sys name R3. I will have to name it as R3. Now again we have to configure the interfaces connected with this router. So you can see here this router was connected by the first router with G000 and with the second router by G002. So I will configure these two interfaces here. First I will interface gigabit Ethernet 0/0/0. So for that I have to sign at the IP address. I will set the IP address as 10.0.12.3 and subnet mask length 24. I will quit it. Now I will interface the other one, which is I interface gigabit Ethernet 0/0/2, which is for this cable which is connected to R2. Here I will have to define the IP address again. I will set this IP address as 10.0.23.3 and subnet mask length 24. So this interface is now also configured here. So I will quit this section. Now I have to interface the loopback, which is interface loopback 0. For the loopback I have to define an IP address again, and for this loopback I will give the IP address as 10.0.3.3. So again we are done with the configuration on router 3. I will go back to the user view and type the command display IP interface brief to see all the IP address we have just assigned. So you can see here at gigabit Ethernet 000 the IP address is 10.0.12.3, and for gigabit Ethernet 002 the IP address is 10.0.23.3, and for the loopback the IP address is 10.0.3.3. So all the routers are now configured and all have been given an IP address with. Okay, so we have configured all three routers with their IP address. Now I want to show you what the problem is really here. So you can see here this router is directly connected to this router. So if I send data from this router to this router on the IP address we defined here at G001, it will easily send the data here. But if I want to send the data from this router on this interface, so it will not send the packet here because it is not directly connected to this one. So for that we have to use the static routes configuration to solve this issue. For that we will use a static route command so that we can send data from this router from this path to this interface. So for that we have to do another step of coding in this section. So we will start with that one. So students, if I open the command window again for router 1 to define a static route to connect it with this router on this G002 interface, I will have to go back to the system view. So I will type the command system view here, And here now I have to define a static route for this router. For that a command is used which is known as the IP route static command. So after IP route static command, you have to understand it very well. Here I have to write the IP address of the destination network. So our destination network is this cable. I have to send data from this router to this interface. Here our destination network is 10.0.23.0. So I write this and subnet mask length 24. Now the next IP address I have to write here is the path which it will follow to go to this destination. So our path is this one, and here our IP address was 10.0.13.2. So I will write the IP address 10.0.13.2 here. Now 10.0.13.2, you have to understand this one. This Ethernet cable was interfaced with the IP address 10.0.13.2. So this is the IP address I have written here as path. So I will enter now. So this path is defined now. Another thing we have to define here, that there is a loop back with this router which we also configured, and the loopback address is 10.0.22. So if I want to send data on that loopback, I again have to configure an IP static route here. So I will write the command again, IP route static, and the destination loopback is 10.0.22. So 10.0.22 subnet mask length 24, and again our path is same 10.0.13.2. So we have defined the path between these two connections. So you can see here they have written here the destination address and mask of the configured static route mismatched, and the static route 10.0.20 was generated. Okay, now we will use the ping command to see if the static route is configured or not. I will write the destination address as 10.0.23.2. So you can see here data is sent easily there by pinging command 10.0.23.2. Where was 10.0.23.2? Here on this interface, and we used this router to send the data on this interface through this path. So this was an indirect path. That's why we had to define a static route to send data here. For that we use this IP route static command. So you can use these commands again on this router to configure all the indirect paths, all the indirect IP addresses, and all the indirect interfaces to send data between them. So I hope you understood it very well. You can do the static routing very easily after this module. We will come back with the latest module again, inshallah. I hope you will join me again. Thank you very much.